I've spent 15 years obsessed with how people look. The curve of a jawline, the exact shade of a sunset in someone's hair. But then, the floor didn't endopos. Just feel cold. It felt absent. I was staring at a strand of blonde hair on the ground, and suddenly, I realized I didn't endopos. Have eyes to see it with. That was the moment I knew. Everything I had built my life around, it was already gone. It was a Tuesday, I think. The salon was quiet. That heavy, post-work kind of quiet where you can hear the hum of the refrigerators in the back. I was sweeping up. The smell of lavender oil and burnt hair was thick in the air, just like any other night for the last 10 years. I remember reaching for a bottle of sulfate-free shampoo on the top shelf, and my hand it didn't endopos. Shake. It drifted, like it was moving through water instead of air. I looked at my reflection in the large, ornate mirror at Station 4, the one I always love because the lighting makes everyone look 10 years younger. But my face, it looked like a blurred photograph. I blinked, thinking it was just a migraine. Or maybe I hadn't endopos, eaten enough lunch. Then came the sound, a high-pitched ringing, like a crystal glass shattering in slow motion, right inside my skull. I tried to call out to my assistant, Sarah, but I remembered I'd sent her home early. The broom slipped from my fingers. Clack. The sound was so loud, so final. I looked down at the broom on the floor, and for a split second, I couldn't endopos. Remember what it was for. I knew it was an object, but its purpose had vanished from my mind. And then, the room started to tilt. Not like I was falling, but like the building itself was being lifted by one corner. I reached for the styling chair to steady myself. My fingers touched the leather. I felt the texture, the cool, synthetic grain, and then I felt nothing at all. I remember the light from the ceiling, those bright, fluorescent tubes we use for color matching. They started to flicker, or maybe it was my brain, losing its grip. There was a sudden, violent surge of electricity through my chest. It wasn't pain exactly. It was more like being pulled through a keyhole. I felt my muscles tighten, my jaw locking so hard I thought my teeth would break. And then, the world just stopped. The hum of the salon gone. The weight of my own body gone. I was falling, but there was no wind. I was screaming, but there was no sound. I tried to grab onto my memories, my name, my shop, my family. But they were like smoke. I could see them, but I couldn't endopos. Hold them. Then, a darkness so thick it felt like velvet wrapped around me. It wasn't endopos. Scary. It was just empty. I thought, end quote. So, this is how it ends. Between a haircut and a sweep, end quote. I felt my heart give one last, heavy thud, a dull echo in a vast, empty canyon. And then, the silence became absolute. The silence, it didn't last. It was replaced by a strange, rhythmic pulsing. I opened my eyes, or what I thought were my eyes, and I was looking down at the ceiling fan, the dust on the blades. I remember thinking I needed to clean that. Then I realized I was hovering just inches away from it. I turned around in the air, light as a dandelion seed, and I saw her. A woman was lying on the floor of the salon, tangled in the cord of a hairdryer. She looked small, pale. Her hair, which I had spent so much time styling, was matted against the cold floor. I felt a strange sense of detachment. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt finished. All the vanity, the hours I spent in front of the mirror worrying about a new wrinkle or the shape of my nose. It felt like looking at a dress I had outgrown. End quote. That endopos. That's not me, end quote. I whispered. And the moment I said it, the walls of the salon began to dissolve. The mirrors, the chairs, the expensive Italian tiles, they turned into translucent mist. I saw the end quote, beauty end quote I had chased my whole life just evaporate. It didn't endopos, matter. None of it mattered. And then, I felt a pull, not from the ground, but from a horizon I couldn't endopos, yet see. The salon was gone, and so was the darkness. I found myself standing, though I had no feet, in a place that felt like it was made of pure, liquid gold. It wasn't endopos, a room. It was an atmosphere. End quote. Light end quote. That didn't endopos, hurt my eyes, but instead, felt like it was washing through me. And then, I saw them, not as people with faces, but as energies. I saw my mother, whom I hadn't endopos, spoken to in 7 years because of a stupid, bitter argument over my father endopos, will. I felt all that anger I had carried, that heavy, jagged rock in my chest. In this light, that anger looked like a speck of dust. A voice, not a sound, but a feeling, spoke to me. Why did you hold on to it for so long? I realized then that my hatred hadn't and Oppos. Tea hurt her. It had only been a poison I was drinking myself. I felt a wave of profound forgiveness sweep over me. It wasn't Oppos. Tea just me forgiving her. It was the universe forgiving me for wasting so much time being small. I saw my life played out, but not the big moments. I saw the times I was kind to a stranger in my chair. I saw the times I chose vanity over connection. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Appearance is an illusion. We spend our whole lives decorating the cage, but we forget the bird inside. I felt so light, so ready to stay. I wanted to dissolve into that gold forever. But then, I felt a tug, a heavy, violent pull from the center of my back. The light began to recede, and I heard a voice, far away, shouting a name I barely recognized as my own. The transition back, it was like being slammed into a suit of lead. One moment, I was expanding into that golden light. The next, I was choking on the smell of burnt hair and floor cleaner. I felt the cold tiles against my cheek first, then the pain, a dull, throbbing ache in my head and chest. Someone was kneeling over me, one of the paramedics. His face was blurred, but I could hear his breath, ragged and fast. I tried to tell him. I tried to say that the mirror doesn't and Oppos, matter. I wanted to tell him that my mother and we are okay now. But all that came out was a gasp. It's been 3 years since that night in the salon. I still cut hair. I still use the same shears and the same mirrors. But when a client sits in my chair and starts crying about a gray hair or a fine line around their eyes, I just smile. I listen to them, truly listen to the person inside the reflection. I finally called my mother. We didn't end Oppos. Talk about the money or the past. We just talked about the weather, and for the first time, that was enough. I still dawn and Oppos. Understand why I was sent back. But every night, when I lock up the shop and turn off those bright, fluorescent lights, I look at the dark, empty space and I feel that gold. I'm not afraid of the end anymore, because I know, when the reflection fades, that's when you finally start to see.